Welcome to Learn at Work, a webinar series presented by the journal Work, a journal of prevention, assessment, and rehabilitation. I'm Karen Jacobs, the founding editor of the journal, and I'll be your moderator for today. I'm very happy to turn over the webinar to our three speakers who will introduce themselves. For people attending the webinar, please be sure to type your questions in the question area, and I will look at them throughout the time period, and we will make sure that they are answered. So again, welcome to Learn at Work.
Welcome to Project Career, the perceived benefits of apps among college students with traumatic brain injury, lessons learned from a multi-site development. My name is Amanda Nardone. I'm the Technology and Employment Coordinator for Project Career at the Boston University site.
Hi, I'm Deb Minton, and I am the Technology and Employment Coordinator at Kent State University.
Good afternoon. I'm Elaine Sampson, and I am the Technology and Employment Coordinator at West Virginia University. Before we start, we'd like to take care of some acknowledgments and disclaimers. The contents of this presentation were developed under a grant from the National Institute on Disability, Independent Living, and Rehabilitation Research. NIDLR is a center within the Administration for Community Living, Department of Health and Human Services. The contents of this presentation do not necessarily represent the policy of NIDLR, ACL, or HHS, and you should not assume endorsement by the federal government. Okay, on to our objectives. Today, we will describe the impact of traumatic brain injury, from here on out to be referred to as TBI, on employment and higher education. We will explain the project career model and program activities that support students in higher education programs and transition from higher education to employment. We will describe the characteristics of students participating in Project Career, and we will share our current research findings from the participants in Project Career. All right, so TBI in America is a serious health problem that is more prevalent in the U.S. than breast cancer, HIV and AIDS, multiple sclerosis, and spinal cord injury. It's recognized by the World Health Organization as a 21st epidemic, similar to malaria and HIV/AIDS. Each year, it is estimated that 1.7 million Americans sustain a TBI, with 75% of those being concussions or other forms of mild TBI. Of these 1.7 million, 80% are treated in emergency departments and discharged. 275,000, or approximately 16%, are hospitalized, and 52,000, or 3%, die each year. Of the 1.7 million, there are an estimated there are at least 500,000 Americans that receive no medical treatment. Sorry about that. From 2000 to 2014, it's estimated that there were 313,816 medical diagnoses of TBI in the military, which accounts for 10 to 20% of the Iraq and Afghanistan war veterans. What we do know is for sure is that no two brain injuries are alike. This is because it depends on the cause of the injury, the severity, the health status at the time of the injury, and the age of the person with the TBI. TBI can result in physical, sensory, cognitive, behavioral, and emotional impairments, which are sometimes chronic and lifelong. Some impairments emerge quickly after the injury, and some can take weeks to months to occur. As a consequence, the prognosis and treatment outcomes vary for each individual and can result in long-term or lifelong disabilities. Common effects of TBI are predominantly physical, cognitive, and emotional, and to a lesser extent are sensory and motor impairments. As you can see, depending on what part of the brain is impacted, that will determine where the impairments are occurring. So a frontal lobe injury is going to impact speech, whereas vision would be more if the injury was in the back. It is less likely to be recognized than a physical medical problem, and the cognitive and behavioral disorders are often difficult to diagnose and treat. There is a risk for ongoing medical problems, and TBI may lead to persistent and late developing comorbid disorders, which include seizures, substance use disorders, depression, anxiety disorders, progressive dementia, and overall poorer functional outcomes. Okay, on to college students with TBI. College students with TBI, it impacts not just the student, but their families and society as a whole. The individuals with TBI, especially college kids, are young and were previously healthy and tend to have more years of life ahead of them. There are numerous problems, academic and preparatory problems related to their cognitive, emotional, and psychological challenges, and they result in lower grades and higher dropout rates for students with TBI. Less than half of them use campus disability services, and they tend to be less likely to have awareness of the support services that are available to them. Veteran students are especially susceptible as they have a higher dropout rate than their civilian counterpart students. All right, employment outcomes. People with TBI tend to be far behind the general population, which creates a financial burden on society. They may not be able to return to work, which may ultimately lead them to drawing Social Security, disability insurance, or supplemental security income, or they may need to access other public housing and other public assistance benefit programs. 62% of individuals with TBI were employed at the time of injury, but only 31% of those are employed 1 year after injury. 75% of people with a TBI lose their job within 90 days without adequate support. This results in an estimated $76.5 billion in direct and indirect costs. And it also results in social isolation and reduced participation of the people with TBI. All right, so how do supports and services, how can we help all of this? We know from studies and literature that people with a bachelor's degree or higher education have, people with TBI with a bachelor's degree or higher education have increased employment. Those receiving SSI and SSDI are less likely to obtain employment, but if they reach out and find the services around them, job placement, on-the-job supports, job search, that these people with TBI are more likely to obtain and maintain employment. Training helps, and having access to information and referral services provide a great benefit when it comes to employment and mitigating the challenges that they're experiencing from their injuries.
Okay. So all of this information about individuals with traumatic brain injuries, the impact on education and employment, was used to develop Project Career. So Project Career is an interprofessional 5-year demonstration program that aims to promote the academic and employment success for veteran and civilian undergraduate students with TBI. As of October of this year, we just entered our 5th and final grant-funded year. The services that are provided to undergraduate students with TBI is a combination of cognitive support technology and academic and career planning support services. These services are provided through the technology and employment coordinators at each respective site. Students in 2- and 4-year undergraduate institutions are supported, and students can be enrolled part-time or full-time. So each year, each site enrolls 10 participants. So at the end of the grant, 150 civilian and veteran students with traumatic brain injury will have received services through Project Career. So the cognitive support technology that's used in Project Career is iPads and apps, and those are used to support cognition, academic performance, and career preparation. The matching person and technology assessment is used in Project Career to help identify the student's cognitive functioning and different technology needs. And then along with the cognitive support technology of the iPad, each student receives individualized vocational case management services through their technology and employment coordinator. Going forward, I'm just going to say tech because it's a little bit shorter and easier. So this service includes career assessments, resume preparation, cover letter writing, assistance with job seeking, finding and obtaining summer and part-time employment, as well as full-time post-graduation employment, assistance locating and applying to internships, support with having a disclosure plan in the workplace, accommodation planning, mock interviewing, and then follow-along services for 1 year after graduation for job placement and on-the-job support. Another component of Project Career is matching participants with mentors or electronic e-mentors. Mentors can be individuals who are working in the student's desired career field, peer mentors, or faculty mentors. Each site approaches that a little bit differently, but it really just depends on the individual student and what their specific needs are. The goals of Project Career are higher retention and graduation rates, improved grades, better post-graduation employment opportunities and employment rates, and we'll give you an update in a little bit about how we're doing with meeting all of those goals. So that's just an overview summary of Project Career and the services that are provided. So we're going to talk a little bit more specifically about apps today. So apps are selected based on the individual strengths and challenges of that student. We use information that's gathered from the matching person and technology assessments, where students self-identify the areas that they're experiencing challenges in. App selection is individualized and it varies from student to student. So as Elaine was mentioning before, no brain injury is alike, so our app recommendations are also not the same for everyone. We also collect information from the matching person and technology about that individual's previous technology usage and comfort and perspectives on technology. So this is all considered with what types of apps to introduce, how many apps to introduce at a time, and how to approach the training with that individual as well. So training is generally done one-on-one in person. It can also be done in the classroom with the student if the student would prefer that and needs a little bit of support in their natural environment for using the app. We also will provide supplemental videos for students, so things that can be found on YouTube or other publicly available videos. We may use a series of screenshots to create a training guide for the student that highlights the most important features of the app and where to find them and how to use them. Fact sheets, flashcards that are already downloaded onto the iPad. And training is a continuous process, so as apps are added or changed or can be used differently, the training is continuously provided. Each student uses each application that's recommended for them and downloaded onto their iPad for a trial period, and this is really to see if that app is meeting the specific needs of the student. So after the trial period, is it something they want to continue using? Do they need to know a little bit more about it, or is it something that they want to stop using and find something else? Did it not meet their need? So apps are changed, added, and deleted as needed for that student. So we thought it would be helpful to put all of this together for you with a case study or a couple of case studies just to provide an overview and understanding of what the Project Career process really looks like from referral to case closure or 1 year post-graduation. So I'm going to share with you about a student that we're going to call Alice. So Alice referred herself to Project Career after she saw an article in the school newspaper about the program. She was struggling in her classes 4 months after her most recent concussion. She reported that she had numerous concussions throughout her life. And when she saw the Project Career article, she thought that she would reach out because she could use a little bit of additional support. So she was currently struggling in her classes. It was kind of midway through the spring semester. She felt that there was no way that she could prepare herself to take finals and didn't know what to do about her current classes when she came to Project Career. She completed her intake, her baseline assessment with Project Career, and her matching person and technology assessments so that the tech could gain a better understanding of her specific challenges and her personal cognitive concerns. So she reported challenges with memory, processing new information, planning, organization, decision-making, staying on track, light sensitivity, and migraines, which were becoming really disruptive for her. When she got a really bad migraine, she also was experiencing visual disturbances along with all of the pain. So after she completed all of her paperwork for the intake process with Project Career, the tech supported her with her immediate need. What was she going to do about these classes that she was enrolled in that she really didn't feel like she could prepare for finals for? It turned out that the specific college that she was in had a different set of rules than the rest of the university. And so she was really feeling overwhelmed and needed some help with navigating all of these systems and kind of determining what her best option was for each of her classes. Should she be applying for a medical late withdrawal? Should she be asking her professors for an incomplete and using the summer to complete her coursework? How is this going to affect her financial aid, her student status? What would it mean to drop down to a part-time schedule? There were just a lot of things that needed to be sorted out. So a system of supports was put together for her. The university offices were contacted and consulted with. The tech helped her to advocate for herself to receive some individual tutoring services through the university, because since she did decide to take an incomplete in 2 of her courses, she wasn't currently enrolled in those courses and there were no tutoring services available for students that were completing incompletes. So she advocated with herself there, and she also advocated for adjustments in her accommodations with the Disability Service Office. So after her immediate need and kind of the biggest contributor to her stress was resolved, she was then administered her iPad. So this was a little bit of a change in the series of services. Usually the iPad is the first thing that students get, but with this student, an adjustment was really needed to take care of what she immediately needed some support with. So after that was resolved, she received her iPad, was trained on the features of the iPad, and then some apps were recommended, and she was trained on those individual apps. Even though she was taking an incomplete in the courses and would have over the summer to complete her coursework, she had not left her part-time job. She reduced her hours, and there were a few apps that were introduced for her to use on the job. So she used 30/30, which is a time management app that helped her to divide her tasks at work and allocate different amounts of time to spend on each different task. And then it also set reminders for her to take a break. So after talking with the tech, she and kind of tracking her symptoms, she realized that she really couldn't go past 45 minutes of work at a time. And so the app reminded her every 30 to 35 minutes to go for a walk or have a snack or meditate or just do something else to take a break. She also used Voice Dream Reader, which is a text-to-speech app, and that allowed her to have the materials at work read out loud to her. So it supported her comprehension, and it also reduced her eye strain and screen time, which was leading to these migraines that she was having. When she returned to her classes, she used Notability, which is a note-taking app that we're going to talk a little bit more about later in this presentation. And she also used iThoughts, which is a mind mapping tool for the iPad, which helps to organize information in a more visual way. So knowing that she was a more visual learner, this was really helpful for her. So as she approached graduation, she was a senior, so graduation was around the corner after she completed these courses and had another semester. So graduation approached, and she worked with her tech to narrow down what types of jobs she really wanted to apply to, where she wanted to enter in the workforce. She developed a professional resume, wrote cover letters with her tech, set up plans for interviews, so doing some mock interviews and also having some little like cheat sheets and interview prep guides that she was able to prepare for each of her interviews. Just support with finding different jobs to apply to and navigating the online job application process. And then also having a plan for disclosing her disability. What was her personal plan going to be? Would she when would she bring it up to her employer, and then having an accommodation plan so that she knew what types of accommodations to ask for on the job. So this particular student did obtain employment 2 months after graduation full-time and used her tech for follow-along support. So things like managing, you know, quote-unquote politics at work when things were stressful. How should she manage those situations with gossip and things like that? When she needed an adjustment in her accommodations, how should she ask for that? Who should she talk to? So she received a follow-along support for a year after graduation and is still currently employed in her full-time position. So that's just one full case study about what the process of Project Career looks like. And Elaine and Deb are both going to also share a brief case study. So Deb, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to talk about Mark. He started with Project Career 2 years ago as a sophomore student. He was referred by another student who had heard about Project Career, actually. Mark was already working with student accessibility services on our campus, but was still having difficulty with his classes and with accommodations. He reported that he had difficulty staying organized and on task, and that his field of study, which was political science, involves a lot of reading, and he was having difficulty completing everything that he needed to do because of headaches that he was getting as he worked on things. So after completing the assessments, he was assigned an iPad, and we started with a couple of apps. We started with Audio Note, which is similar to Notability, and we also used Kent State's Read Write Gold, which is a text-to-speech program offered to all Kent State students. As far as organizing, the student wanted to keep a written calendar and didn't want an app, so we got him a calendar and used that. There was immediate success with Audio Note. He was able to record his classes while he took his notes, and it allowed him to go back at a later point in time to re-listen to the lecture, to update his notes when he missed information, to take pictures of diagrams and things that were on the board, and to supplement what he was tracking with those notes. His initial experience with Read Write Gold, the text-to-speech program, was not as good. He had some difficulty with using it and maneuvering with it. So after a little bit, we tried a different app. We used Voice Dream Reader, which isn't supported by Kent State, but the student was able to download his texts via a Google Dropbox, and he was able to use Voice Dream Reader and has found success with that and continues to use it. He is able to listen to Voice Dream Reader. He actually selected an Australian voice so that it would sound different enough that he wouldn't tune out, and will read along, whether it's his textbook, class handouts, or other material. He's able to review more frequently and has had fewer headaches, and he attributes that to not focusing as hard on what he was reading and trying to retain that. An update related to the written calendar, that is something that we are working on. We've connected with a calendar app called Planner Master, and he inputs the class assignments, the readings, the tests, and it gives him pop-ups on his iPad so that he knows what's due. And Mark is planning to graduate in August of 2018, and has started looking at graduate programs that start that fall. So that's a brief synopsis of Mark, and I'll turn it over to Elaine.
Thanks, Deb. I'm going to talk to you about Betsy today. Betsy was actually my first student with Project Career. She was referred through her vocational rehabilitation counselor after incurring a moderate TBI in a car accident. Betsy was attending a local 2-year program and was struggling with her classes, which is why her counselor referred her to me. Through the assessments, we learned that Betsy was struggling with technology. In the 2-year program that she was in, a lot of her assignments were online, or she even had some online classes. So that meant Betsy, who was struggling with her technology, was spending a lot of time on computers that were frustrating for her. So when we, the first thing we needed to deal with was what was the struggle with the technology, and we learned that it had just been a lifelong struggle for her. So when we issued Betsy her first iPad, or her iPad, I started with an app that would be easy to use and that she would find success with. And in this case, it actually turned out to be a game app. It was a brain training, memory training game app. And after just a couple of weeks, she saw success. She saw herself getting better, finding the app easier to use, which made technology more approachable for her. In conjunction with that, we met with her accessibility counselor at her college, and we were able to talk about getting an accommodation that she could have more of her assignments be paper and pencil and less online. And so those two things together gave her the success that she was looking for and gave her the confidence she needed to continue and try to work more with the online classes. She was then issued some more apps, which included Notability for note-taking, the Blackboard app that coordinated with her school for her online classes. So with the iPad, she had more portability. And we were able to get her internet through a Wi-Fi in her home, which she had not had before. So now she was actually able to work on her classwork at home, which made a very big difference for her. She graduated a year after being with Project Career and was able to obtain employment immediately after graduation. And at a year post-services, she was still with that same employer. She had been promoted twice and was planning to go back to school so that she could be promoted again. She was going to have to move to do that, so she's no longer with the program, but she was very pleased with her progress through Project Career.
Great, thank you, Elaine. Okay, so hopefully those case studies were helpful in understanding Project Career as a whole. And back to apps. So we do recommend a very large variety of apps. We just wanted to give a little bit of an overview of some of the more commonly recommended apps in different categories. So you'll see that there's note-taking apps, different apps for study support. So Quizlet is a flashcard app. Khan Academy is more like content-based app. Voice Dream Reader reads out loud. We have organization apps for managing appointments and a calendar, as well as managing class assignments, and then behavior and health apps, so yoga, meditation, and some general wellness apps as well. And this is just a few examples of the many apps that we have researched and tested and recommend. So the top 5 apps that are used are Notability, Khan Academy, calendar apps. So majority of our students are using the iOS built-in calendar, but a lot of students, or some students, may also want additional features or might like a different visual. So other apps are recommended as well for calendars. And iThoughts and My Homework, so some homework and assignment management. So we're going to give an overview of a few of the top, or a couple of the top 5 apps, and just to show you kind of how our students are using them. So Notability is a note-taking app that allows you to handwrite with a stylus, or you can type with the keyboard. So all of our students also receive a Bluetooth keyboard with their iPad. So you can type or handwrite, whatever is preferred. And then you can also record your lecture, and the note-taking will sync with that recording. So if you look at this example on the slide here, which is actually that's a screenshot from one of our students who uses this app. So if she was really curious about what her professor was talking about when she drew those graphs at the bottom, if she tapped on that picture in her notes, it would jump to that part of the recording. So it makes reviewing really helpful. She also takes pictures of the board, as you can see, and then added those into her notes, so she didn't have to worry so much about keeping up in lecture. So she could take a picture and add to it later, or just write right on top of it during class. What she describes as her challenge is that if she's in lecture, she can't keep up with the handwriting and also be listening to what the professor says. So this app allows her to really be present in class and listen to her professor, and then she can always listen to the recording later and add in notes and study from those notes later on. So this is just an example of her notes here, and then here's a couple more examples of the app. So it's a way to organize your classes and everything as well. So you can create different folders and add your notes into different classes. And then you can also import presentations, Word documents, PDF documents right into the app and annotate on top of them. So here we have an example of a reading that she had to read for homework, and then there was a discussion in class. And so during class, she could take notes on top of it and highlight things that her professor had marked as important. This can also be really helpful for PowerPoint presentations. So you can take notes right on top of the PowerPoint presentation and then also be recording. And Elaine is going to share a little bit about Khan Academy.
Sorry, I had muted myself. So thanks, Amanda. So Khan Academy is a supplemental, we use it as a supplemental learning device app. You can literally learn anything with the over 10,000 videos that cover, as you can see, math and science, economics, history. In the math section, it covers everything from early math to multivariate calculus. And in science, it's physics to electrical engineering and biology and chemistry. There's test prep for if you're getting ready to take the SAT as a high school student, or if you're a college student and you're getting ready to take your GMATs. There's all sorts of test prep. And then there's a little bit of life prep as well. It covers college admissions and personal finance. The amazing thing is it's free. It's always going to be free. That's the mission of the inventor, the man who created it, and it's always changing. There's a whole group of scientists and mathematicians and humanities people that just research and make these videos. I started using it with my students almost immediately into Project Career. I have one student that I like to kind of think of as my Khan Academy champion, and she was taking organic chemistry. She had already had to take an incomplete and then was retaking it as a summer session in order to be able to focus solely on that class. And so we downloaded Khan Academy onto her iPad, and she took it in and sat down with her professor and said, you know, my tech thinks I should use this, and the two of them went through the organic chemistry videos, and the professor said, absolutely, you should use this. This is the same material that we're going to use in class. And so through going to class and advocating for herself with her professor and using Khan Academy as her supplemental app, she was able to take a class that she had been failing and end up with a B in the class. So I think of her as my Khan Academy champion, but it is an app that I issue to all of my students to use to kind of supplement what they're learning in class.
Okay, and Deb is going to share a little bit about the iOS calendar and how calendar apps support our students. Okay, Deb might be having some trouble with her microphone, so I'll just take over here. So the calendar apps are, as you can see here, we have a screenshot showing you that you are currently participating in our Project Career webinar from 1 to 2. So the iOS calendar can be used for keeping track of appointments, events, the class schedule, work schedule. The really great part about the calendars is that you can set reminders using the alert feature, and you can set more than one reminder. So you can set a reminder for the day before, and then maybe an hour before or 15 minutes before if you want to have more than one. You can sync multiple calendars, and then you can also create shared calendars. So some students may have a calendar that they share with their parents or their spouse that has like doctor's appointments, and then they might have a calendar that's for themselves personally where they keep their class schedule. So you can just see here that there's some different views with the calendar, and then creating a new event. That's what it looks like. You can put the location in, a start time and end time. You can set events to repeat. So if you put in a class from 4:30 to 6:50 and you want it to repeat every Wednesday night, it will do that for you. So you don't have to manually enter everything. Other calendars students may prefer just because they like a screen that looks a little bit different. They may want to color code or attach files to their events. So there are also some calendars that students who have a hard time transitioning from a paper calendar might prefer because they look more like a paper planner. So we take all that into consideration for a student who wants to use a calendar app.
And the nice thing about the iOS calendar is that it will also allow you to sync with those other calendar apps. It can be set up to do that, and is a very nice feature to go with it. When you save your information, it only allows you to do it in half-hour increments, but with choosing your events, as Amanda said, you get to you're able to set it so it's a repeating event and you can invite others. You also have the opportunity to add up to 2 alarms to remind you, to build in travel time if there is driving involved. You can add a URL or notes that can be shared with the other folks that you're sharing that information with. And you can also use Siri to actually make a calendar event, which is a really nice option. Thanks for helping me with that, Amanda.
Yeah, thanks for coming back on. So now we have the exciting part of sharing outcomes to date.
Yes, we've talked about the impact of TBI with some general information, how it impacts education and working, about our program, but I want to share some information about our students that we get to work with every day. This information is based on a report from late September of this year, and as far as demographic information, our participants, there tend to be a few more males than female. Overwhelmingly, they are Caucasian. A little more than 1/4 are veterans. The average age of our students, which varies from 17, 18 years old to students who are in their 50s, is 27. Generally, the average GPA is 2.6, and upon exit it has increased to 3.5, so that we know that we're having an impact and that we are able to help our students. At this point, 17 students have withdrawn. Of those students that have withdrawn, some have withdrawn because they have gone on and are working, or they have moved away. The other information that I would share is that when we start getting initial information from our students, we look to clarify what happened about their TBIs and ask them to share what they believe, how they would describe whether it would be a mild, moderate, or severe traumatic brain injury. And our students have said more than half believe that that is a severe situation. Next slide. So with our students, they have been able to, those who have gone through the process initially, and then after 6 and 12 months, report that there is a perceived benefit from using the iPad that they have been given and the apps that they have been provided. As you can see, 3/4 report that it has improved their academic performance. 2/3 believe that it has improved their personal quality of life, enhanced their well-being, and helped them take care of personal errands, and more than half report that it has helped them be more comfortable. I'm going to have you go to the next slide. Thanks. So more information about our students. Of the 34 students who have graduated, 30 of those students are employed full-time or part-time. 3 of those students are not currently working, but they're pursuing further education on a full-time basis. 1 student is providing voluntary unpaid family elder care on a full-time basis, and 8 of the employed students have gone on to pursue their education. We are really proud of the fact that we can show that our students are productive and have meaningful post-graduation activities, whether that's employment or something else. We believe that we are making a difference regularly for the students that we get to work with. So with that, that would wrap up our presentation. We want to check in to see if you have questions, and we appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you so much for this extremely interesting presentation. And we do have a first question here, and let me read it to you. It says, can you recommend an app that can help improve memory, and is there evidence to support it? And this is Sue, and Sue is in the UK, and Sue is a regular on our webinars. So Mandy or Deb or Elaine, would you like to answer that?
So we have seen in the news recently about Lumosity and the claims that were made by Lumosity and then the resulting lawsuit. So we are always very careful when recommending apps to use apps that are supporting a student's memory but not necessarily claiming that it's going to improve memory. So a lot of our students who play various games on their iPad, whether it's Solitaire or Clockwork Brain or Elevate, they may report that it has helped them to be sharper or be more quick to respond or support their memory. And we use a lot of apps to support memory, so things like taking pictures, using recording, having reminders and calendars. But not necessarily that we have outcomes or research that supports improving memory. So I hope that answered the question.
Mandy, thank you very much. And Sue, she said thank you as well. And I just want to ask any of our other attendees, if you'd like to post a question, please do that. So let me ask a question myself. Is there any plans for Project Career in the future? I know that it's a 5-year grant, and the grant will complete at the end of September 2018. Are there any plans in the works?
We are currently exploring many options to continue the grant. We plan to resubmit with our current funder, Neidler, but we are also looking at other sources, both private and public, because we want to continue what we're doing. We believe it's making a difference.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to ask another question. Can you share perhaps some narratives? And you did 3 great case studies, but some other narratives that students are sharing with you. Perhaps these are ones who have graduated already, about the impact Project Career has had on their lives. And by any chance, are any of the students who graduated or perhaps might still be in the program doing any kind of peer-to-peer mentoring or presentations with you? Or even writing?
So at the Boston site, I do have one Project Career participant who now is also a research assistant with Project Career. So she does assist us at conferences with presenting about her experience in the program, and then also with conducting the workshops that we do with our presentation. So helping attendees to learn about the iPad and demonstrate different apps. She also did just publish a narrative in this most recent issue of the Work Journal. So she has really been able to benefit from the project and then also give back to the project, as one example.
Thank you, Mandy. Deb or Elaine, any examples? And we've got another comment too. Sue said there's research going on at Cambridge on apps for memories, and you may want to look at it. So Sue, thank you for that URL, and I'll definitely pass that along.
Thank you.
To follow up on your question, Karen, we don't currently have any of our former participants working with us here in the office at Kent State, but we do have a number of students that have referred other students to come in and work with us, and so the word of mouth has made a difference.
Similar to Deb, at West Virginia University, we don't have any of our students working in the office with us. I do have one veteran student who is a one-man referring machine. He, every time I meet a new veteran and I say, how did you find out about Project Career, it is almost always from this same young man who has found great success with the project, and so he likes to share his success and information with his fellow veterans.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much, all 3 of you. Now we have another question. Comment was, great presentation. It would be great if the 3 of you could discuss how the technology and employment coordinators work together, and also how the initiative is evaluated. If you can share that, that would be wonderful.
So I'll touch on the how we work together. We are geographically not close to each other, Kent State and Ohio, and Boston and Massachusetts, and then West Virginia. But we keep in regular contact through FaceTime on our iPads. We Google Chat with our iPads, and we talk on the phone quite frequently. We do use each other as sounding boards, as resources. We go to each other with our successes and with our challenges. So even though we're not geographically near each other, we really do work as a cohesive team, building on each other's experiences, which has been one of the amazing parts of this project, is that we've been able to use the technology that we give to our students in real world applications. So we know that those real world applications work, and they work well.
And a lot of our all of our program evaluation and data evaluation is done through JBS International in DC. So the data that's collected through the matching person and technology assessments, and then through a outcome assessment, which is all of these items are completed at intake, 6 months and 12 months, and then all of that data is analyzed and evaluated through JBS International.
And JBS International also does some qualitative analysis based on our reports of our interactions with the students and what the students are telling us, the apps that are being used, and the things that students are dealing with, both inside and outside the classroom.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to ask a question to each of you. When you've been working with these different apps, have you found any applicability of these apps to yourselves in your role as TEC in Project Career?
I use Notability every day in my job. Whether I'm taking case notes when I'm meeting with a student, I can take case notes right on my iPad by using my stylus and writing into Notability. If I'm in a staff meeting, I record the meeting so that I have the information when I go back to my office, and if I need to review something. If I'm attending a webinar, I download the slides into Notability ahead of time, and then as I'm attending the webinar, I can make notes right on my slides. So I do use Notability every day. And I use Khan Academy with my high school children. So. But yes, I would say in a day-to-day functioning, I find my iPad to be my right-hand man.
That's great, and I think that's so important because no apps were created just for Project Career. These are everyday apps that anyone can use, but it's really helpful to the students that you serve. Thank you, Elaine. How about Deb or Amanda?
Yeah, so prior to Project Career, I was really a pen and paper gal, and that has really changed. So I wouldn't be able to survive now without my iOS calendar. I use Notability. I'm a part-time evening master's student, so I use Notability with my coursework. I use my homework to keep track of my assignments, and I use Trello to keep track of all the different tasks and lists that I need to have for making sure that all of my work with Project Career is done. So I use Trello to keep separate checklists, one for things I need to follow up with students about, one for presentations and conferences, another list for housekeeping things. So I have also really started to rely on apps and my iPad to function and support myself.
I have to say I am like Amanda as well. I like my pen and paper, but I use Audio Note, which is very similar to Notability, and I use that in meetings. I use it on the road when I'm trying to track things. I like to, it's nice to be able to go back and follow up based on that information, and it's something I wished I'd had when I was in school.
Thank you so much, and thank you, all three of you, for everything that you're doing with Project Career. It's a wonderful initiative, and it's great that you have all of these wonderful outcomes that are really making a difference in the lives of the students and in the lives of their family, and also for society in general, particularly when we look at the statistics that we see with people who've had a TBI and employment. So I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody who joined us today. You can see up on the screen the contact emails of our three technology and employment coordinators. I hope you'll be in touch with them. And I want to thank everybody for joining this Learn at Work webinar. It will be posted on our Learn at Work YouTube channel. So if you want to share it with other people, please do. And please subscribe to our Learn at Work YouTube channel where all of our webinars are located. Thank you all, and have a meaningful day.